Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, August 21st, 2025. I'm going to go right into our business. And the first business is Jan Butler for the Yarmouth Seaside Festival Committee proposed fireworks and pollution control plan for Seaside Festival at Seagull Beach. Thank you.
Well, you called me back here, so
You gave us a letter.
I've given you the letter, I've given you the fireworks information, I've given you the SDS. And I don't know what other information you might need.
Just to summarize, you have
19 volunteers,
right. Yeah, the next morning.
the tides are in our favor.
A letter from the company. He said that they did talk about biodegradable cardboard.
Yes.
Biodegradable can mean a lot of things. Do you have any idea how long?
I believe he is going to check in with this Zoom meeting and we might be able to answer that better than I. It's the professional, not I. His name? Warren Pierce. Who's up there? Warren, do you have an answer to the biodegradable question?
Sure. The majority of the fireworks, of course, are built in China. And so the paper is not really very, very strong. So the majority of the debris that comes from a firework show is small pieces of paper. And they're like any other piece of paper, and they degrade very quickly. We shot the show many, many years in a row. And when we go back each year, we do not find any of the stuff from the year before. We don't find any paper or any residue or any of the things from the prior year. So obviously there's some level of degradation going, and that's with that material. We also know that the plastics is an issue. We're concerned about it too, and we've instructed our suppliers not to put any more plastic on it than it's needed. And for the show that we were proposing to do this year, all the plastic will be removed. So the net result is there'll be the firework itself, which has an oxidizer in it, so it burns completely, and the small pieces of paper and some of the husks, some of the shells, partial shells, which again are just cardboard and paper. But we also go along and pick all those big pieces up and everything. So basically, we're leaving just very small amounts of paper, which biodegrades and disappears relatively quickly.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. I have one other concern, that's the timing of the cleaning, since it seems to be high tide on the 13th at 6:35 and low tide at 12:28. So what time do you think we'll be out there?
First crew will come out between probably closer to 8 o'clock in the morning.
The tide's going out by then.
Yes, yes. And
If I may.
have the other members of the cleanup crew come a little bit later.
Okay. Walt, do you have something else to say?
If I may, I'll be out there very early because I have to meet the fire department and do a walkthrough. It's a first light check. It's required by the law, and I'll be doing that. And then we'll begin our any cleanup that we could do. We'll begin at that point. So we'll be early.
Thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. I think you did a nice amount of work attending to a lot of the details that concerned us from the last meeting. Thank you for doing that. I wondered if, I think it was mentioned in the last meeting that maybe in the future, whether it be next year, year after, whatever, you could consider some other type of ceremony other than fireworks at the end of the Seaside Festival. I think there are things that can be done with kind of laser shows and this, that, and the other thing that are much more friendly to the environment. So if your committee could consider that, it would be appreciated.
Okay. We certainly will
Thank you.
look into that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. I think that there are chemicals that for the colors, particularly in the fireworks, that are really not well researched unless your contractor knows about sound.
He does, and the chemicals that are up in the sky and give you the color are burnt out.
Well, they're burnt out, but they leave chemicals. They leave residue, and that gets dispersed throughout the air and certainly eventually falls, if not sooner or later, on the ocean or the land near the ocean. So I think that this is something that as we go along, get older, we realize the impacts are more and more important, and that we'd like to see if there's alternatives, maybe. Well, I don't want to put the fireworks onto land because it's going to be impacting on the land, but on the other hand, that would be good from our viewpoint. Then,
And fireworks are lit off around the world.
yeah,
And
Right.
out of 15 towns, there's 10 of them that do fireworks every year.
that's right.
So,
That's the problem I'm talking about.
right. And this is it for us, I guess. Do we have any structure for follow-up on this? Or just, is it gonna be just by, word of mouth or something that it didn't go well?
Yeah, I'm happy to follow up after DPW does their vacate on Tuesday to make sure everything has been cleaned up as agreed.
The only other thing I want to add is next year, if you come to us in February, so if we don't feel like we're against the.
Exactly, because I felt like I was against the tide because it's really put a hurt on us as far as planning other things. So yes, I would appreciate that.
Anybody want to make a motion to, bring it to permit?
I will, wait a second, we have conditions on this.
Yeah, just the only thing that wasn't in the plan was that the volunteers would follow up closer to low tide after the hired professionals clean up. So that covers all of our tides. And
I'll make that.
I'm giving you my word.
Second.
I'll second.
Second, okay, all in favor? Say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. So you have it.
Thank you. So we can apply for our state permit now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
To send them everything.
yeah, I'll respond with your town property use form with the conditions we spoke about and approval of your plan.
Well, thank you.
And I thank the commission very much.
Yeah, thank you, Warren.
Okay.
Yeah, next is POC for SE 832214 Lance Waverly 27 on Edith Road. Thank you.
There's nothing to sign for Seaside, not yet.
We have to, how do you want to do this? We have to give up the CAC.
CSC? Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Lance with Crawford Land Management. This is Jen Crawford, also with Crawford Land Management, representing Lance and Pamela Wiltsey for 27 Amphibious Roads. We are requesting a certificate of compliance for SE 832214. Permit was approved in January of 2020. Allowed for the rebuilding of the patio, widening it a little bit, added parking area, walkways to the yard and a fence along the top of the coastal bank. And then as mitigation for this, native plantings were added to the landscape beds and where there used to be lawn as well. Some was given up for native plantings. And this work has been completed and it's in the general areas that were on the plan. There are some differences. The hardscape decreased, the patio is not widened as much as thought, and the parking area is smaller, so there's 238 square feet less coverage in that regard. And with the fence being installed on top of the coastal bank, I think it might be because of the erosion, which we're hoping to address later this evening. It was installed further back, which cut into the planting area on that side of the property, and more mitigation was added instead in the area around the driveway, less lawn. We believe that this is still in substantial compliance, and we hope you guys do.
Usually we don't talk about the CIC part. Want to make statement plans.
Yeah, I think the COC is all set. Forgot to look for ongoing conditions, so I'm looking for any that apply now. The ongoing condition 13, which is just a buffer strip of mitigation being maintained and not disturbed in the future. But with the decrease in hardscape, I think the COC is all set.
Can I have a motion to accept the COC?
So moved.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, but particularly, I can barely hear you. I don't know if it's my ears.
Really,
A little louder into your microphone. Okay.
Well, I'll go ahead and make.
You made the motion.
I made a motion.
Bradford made the motion, seconded by Pat. All in favor of accepting the COC?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, so we're halfway done.
the same folder, there's two signature pages. We'll just send the top one down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to SC 832495, Crockett Land Management for Land Advisory, or Rizzu, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. 27 Arnie Road, proposed installation of fiber roll, repair for existing patio, relocation, expansion of existing steps in riverfront area. One subject to coastal flooding, coastal bank, coastal beach, and a buffer zone of a salt marsh.
Good evening again. So on this property, there is a coastal bank that is steeply sloping and it's starting to be scoured by wave activity. And that's undermining the stability of the upland area, including a patio with a fire pit on it. To address this, we want to install a fiber roll array, as well as nourishment and plantings on that bank. During the installation, the existing steps going down the bank will have to be removed because they are in grade. So we're replacing them with a elevated stairway. And the replacement of some of the patio that is either sloping because of the erosion that we're talking about, or maybe damaged while we're installing the fiber roll array. Mitigation is required for any proposed renewal replacement hardscape. As per the town of Yarmouth wetland regulation 6.02. So we propose mitigation in between the fence and the top of the bank. Not on the landward side of the fence where mitigation was previously used for the landscape work on the permit that we just talked about.
That's it.
That's what I have, and if you have any questions, we'll
Anybody have any questions? I have a question right. Go ahead, you go first, then everyone else.
I was not able to see this specifically. I was just concerned about the not so much the two oak saplings, but the cantilever cherry to be removed. Would that be replaced in kind, or what are we looking at there?
So we proposed 3 cherries, in one of the mitigation areas. Yes. That was also based on the regulations, which I believe called for a cal per inch thing, cal per inch replacement. So estimating that it was about a 7-inch cherry, it might be in one of these pictures. It's kind of growing out sideways from the bank. It's pretty much the only like full tree that is avoidable.
Yeah.
Was shown on page 4 of our land management plan. We have it circled there in red, so you can see that it's pretty much leveraged all the way out over the beach and the salt marsh.
No, I'm all set. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, with the fiber roll array, you're proposing planting over it, right?
Yeah, so the nourishment will have beach grass and a couple of other things on top of it. I think we have it listed there. I can't remember all the species off the top of my mind. Yeah, American beach grass, spikegrass, switchgrass, seaside golden rod, and salt meadow. Have directly on the Freshman itself.
Okay, so then I also saw that you have the gold nourishment. I guess I'm wondering how that's gonna work to be adding nourishment if there's plants there, hopefully you wouldn't need nourishment.
That planting's fully established, we recognize that, not all that sediment is going to be really held in place by a whole lot. So if we have storm cycle, tide cycle, something that might remove some of that, then we need the ability to be able to replenish or replant accordingly. So that's really where that piece of it comes into play. Now it's green. Okay,
Now it's great, okay.
we stay green.
Are you finished? I'm sorry.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Did I answer your
yeah,
question
thank
fully?
you. That was.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question about the kayak rack. Are you keeping it or are you moving it?
We are not proposing any change to it, so.
I make a comment that it was a very thorough and really good site plan showing everything on one sheet and all the nomenclature and listings, and it's just good to see something like that. It's very good drawing.
All Dylan.
Seriously, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody in the audience has anything to say about this particular? Anybody on Zoom? Did you see anybody? I don't. No. Okay. You're, I'm sorry, what about you?
I just didn't see, I don't know if you had in there, just the nourishment, you just need to bring analysis before you do the nourishment so we can ensure compatible sand. And I can just add that as a special condition.
Perfect.
And then you have monitoring in there. And so annual monitoring as well. We'll usually have that due in November.
Perfect.
That's all. Thank you.
And then actually, I have a question for the board. Sometimes we're doing this, sometimes aren't. Are you writing in your orders the allowance for maintenance of naturalized areas to be an ongoing condition? You are?
In the certificate of compliances, we do, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, and you done, Brittany?
Yes, I'm all set.
Is there anybody in the commission? Can I hear a motion to accept? Second, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Second was, Ellie? Yeah, Ellie? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, is FE 832494 Cape Cod Engineering for RJ Resorts, Blue Water Resort owner, 291.
You skipped one.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry. Sorry, SE 232482 Ryder Wilcox with James McCartney, 27 Gristmill, after the fact filing for unpermitted patio, retaining walls and filled within the flood zone and buffer zone for the salt marsh. You introduce yourself and.
Thank you. David Little from Ryder and Wilcox and Scott Fimakowski, the general contractor for the site. So we went out to the site just a week and a half ago and updated the site plan to show the existing conditions on the site, as Scott has pretty much restored it as far as the grades are concerned back to its original configuration. We also provided you with photos of the site so you can see how it looks now. And we, on the site plan, we have included proposed mitigation for the entire front yard, which will constitute 1,580 square feet, for the 642 square feet of patio, wall, and steps that were constructed on the site. So we're well in excess of the 2-to-1 that's required for here. And as you can see, the site plan kind of reflects what Brittany is showing you in the pictures right now. So I am in receipt of Brittany's recommendations, and I'll turn it over to comments and questions. Thank you very much.
Couple, that's why I want to make sure that your person knows, zoning knows there should be no more work allowed until the final approval of the plan. He seems to keep working even though we've asked him not to. So please let him know.
I will convey that to the owner as well as Scott, who is doing the work.
Okay. You say the grade was lowered, the lower the curb, the lower part of the grade is going to be below the curb.
So before Scott started the work, there was cobblestone curbing, and he removed that. And he built the 3-foot high wall. He removed the wall down to the height of the approximate height of what the cobblestone curbing was.
Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Well, I just want to make sure that it doesn't go over the,
Well,
okay, so if the water works way down, if it's the curb, not the road.
Right.
Okay.
absolutely.
Couple of other things,
Yeah, I did, just so you know, I sent David Little the list of special conditions, so it wasn't gonna be overwhelming during the meeting. So he has all these, but we can go over them.
you want me to go over them? You want to go over?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. We still need planting quantities,
Understood.
okay? We wanna, we immediately clean up of the property that's within the 50 feet and should be stored outside the 50-foot buffer. And, I think we want the patio work in the back to be shown on the plan within 100 feet. I guess there's work being done in the back of the, is that right?
Yeah, so since the whole site is within the flood zone, this will be our plan of record. We want everything on site to be shown. And so that it will be permitted, so any work in the future is not confusing.
Got it.
And technically Mill Creek is not, this portion is not river in this area, I don't believe.
That's fine. Stephanie did a project just south of here,
It was,
and she was told it was riverfront, so I put a riverfront boundary on it from approximate mean high water, so I'll be happy to remove that.
it doesn't impact this project. But I don't believe that this part of Mill Creek.
So I have all the listed corrections that you're asking for on the
Okay.
plan. I will remove that.
Okay.
I'm happy not to be working with riverfront.
Anything else?
Does the commission have anything else?
Yes. Anybody else have anything? Yeah, anybody in the audience? Yes.
Good evening. I'm John Patrick. I live next door at 81 Bristol. There are a couple of points of contention that I do have. One, yes, I will agree that there was a cobblestone border, which was not set in cement. Go over, pull it out. Then the 3-foot wall was built. Significantly impacting the distribution of water during super high tides and large storms. Impacting my property, increasing the erosion there. What's in there now is not that 3 inches, it's approximately 6 inches above at least. As you can see from that picture, I had sent the Conservation Office pictures in the past of the Google Earth prior to all of this work being done. And it will show you the significant difference in the grading.
Sorry, I don't have those up in the file at the moment.
That's a little frustrating. However, when we did the reconstruction of the house at 31 Gristmill Lane, we came in front of the board multiple times for approval. We were not allowed to put any boundary edging at the edge between our property and the street, which we were happy to comply with. My feeling is that if we needed to comply with this, everybody needs to comply with this. Otherwise, why have regulations? As such, I know everybody wants to improve their house. We don't have an objection to that, but it should not have an impact, a negative impact on our property right next door.
You to the left or the right when you're looking.
We are to the left. We're closest to the marsh.
Thank you. Get a picture of that.
Yep.
Can you just show, what, is that existing? Or is that slope, what the picture that was on the screen?
Yeah, that's from this week.
Originally, it's a completely different slope than what was there prior to any of this work being done.
Because I think that slope is indicated correctly, and I'd like to see a section through it. It's a significant slope. And I don't believe it's shown adequately on this plan. I see the two contour lines which indicate a foot difference. And I believe that is more than a foot.
So there's a 4-foot contour. No, you may be correct. So there's a 4-foot contour immediately the street side of the granite curbing. You see that? And the 6-foot and then there's a 6-foot contour. And then there is an 8-foot contour up by the patio. I can make that clearer on the revised plan.
I think
There was a smaller patio up by the house. This is obviously larger. And we're proposing to mitigate for the larger patio. But I don't, with respect to land-
runoff, that's all.
lands, well, the planning plan will address any runoff from our site, from stormwater. But with respect to the land subject to coastal storm flowage, I don't think that the curbing that we have there will cause any more reflected wave energy than the cobblestone curbing that was there originally. And it's just at the pavement. You're not living there.
So what?
He's not living there and doesn't see the daily effects of that, like last night's weather coming in with the high tide coming in and being over, not going up onto Mr. McCartney's property, but coming down onto ours.
I know when we were out there. Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, Barney. So this is unpermitted work originally. And the contour of the front yard, the slope in the front yard was changed. Let's say within that unpermitted effort, right? Okay, so that was changed, and also the cobblestone edging was taken out, the wall was built, and now the wall was taken down with the exception of the first course of brick. So I wonder why it seems to be the butter is saying that those changes, which again were unpermitted, have adversely impacted his property. Therefore, I'm trying to understand why I wouldn't say that it seems that this should revert back to the original contour and to the original curbing, so that these types of things could theoretically be rectified.
So that can be done. It would be going from a 6-inch granite curb to a 4-inch cobblestone curb.
Yep.
It would require a significant amount of work, but if that's what the commission requires,
Well, it's not, well, with the commission, I'm just saying what I see, my own personal, contribution. I, I, I don't know, really, maybe I need help with this. I don't know what the 2-inch difference is contributing to in terms of what the gentleman is saying, as far as, difficulty with the flowage and so on and so forth in his property. I'm not sure I understand why that, it seems to me that more of the grading would contribute to some sort of a difficulty.
well, as you can see his car parked in this.
Yes,
picture. That's his car.
Yeah.
So that grade matches the existing grade on his driveway.
Yeah.
So we're not, if the water comes up, we're not creating, we're not creating a new adverse impact to his property. If the commission feels that 2 inches of curbing is going to cause a significant reflected wave energy from lands, so be it.
It is, maybe I'm misunderstanding the problem. Is the problem that with the wave energy or with the runoff off of the grade?
I think the problem is with the neighbors.
Yeah, we can't do too much about it. We're not gonna discuss that.
This is me, not gonna debate with the neighbor. I understand. And where we're coming from. Yes. Yes, please do. How long is this?
You can see where sorry about that. You can see how the grade is consistent. It is not.
Well, are you finished?
Yeah, I do. I hope I made myself clear. I mean, I'm not saying I understand, again, the curbing, whether that's the culprit here in terms of what the gentleman is saying, or the grading, it seems like there is some problem. And, I think it would have to be made clear whether it's because of this project or because of something else.
There's always been a problem with it. And the grade on his property was raised up significantly when he came before you to construct a new dwelling to match our grade.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Very quickly in the picture, I have a picture here. It looks like is that a temporary erosion control measure at the foot of the stairs?
Yes, it is.
What's the permanent detail there going to be?
Can I look at which picture you're?
It's up. I have it up. It's fine.
Yeah, that's different.
Those are little pieces of fiber rolls that were just there temporarily.
So permanently, what will
Yep.
be
It'll be cobblestone.
cobblestone?
Um, I'm also not sure though how much of an impact 2 inches on the curb is gonna have with flooding in general. Just looking at this picture though, it doesn't seem to be. You mentioned earlier that it's at grade with the neighbor's property. It doesn't seem to be at grade, so I'm gonna echo Ellie's comment earlier of seeing some sort of cross section. So we can better understand that.
That's the common property line right there.
Yeah. It still seems like it's at a higher.
Yeah,
rate
can we
than-
eliminate the rest of the timber wall? And meet the grade on the front, not to have this hump, but to smoothly grade at an elevation lower than the curving. So eliminate some of that grade at the
You
front.
can pull out the entire timber wall.
Yeah, the entire timber wall and lower the grade.
Dale?
Um, I think just based on Brittany, you said you had provided some comments for a plan. I think I would want to see that approved plan before.
Yeah, so what I provided was that we needed on this plan. We need to see a mitigation table showing the ratios and how we need it. Label of the butters, show the grades on the patio and the front curb. Graphically showing the patio in the back as well. And including plant quantities. It doesn't affect the permitting much, but since it is a dead end street, the buffer zone to the marsh might curve upward on the side, on the south side. So there's marsh across the street, there was also marsh at the dead end over here, so it may change the buffer lines a little bit. And then the special conditions, we do need, this is insufficient erosion control. As you can see, the loose sediment is going into the roadway. So we need the sediment to be cleaned up immediately and sufficient erosion control installed. General construction equipment needs to be stored outside of the 50-foot buffer. And anything with an engine needs to be stored outside the 100 with no refueling within the 100. And the full seeding and planting should be completed this fall to reach stability since we have exposed sediment. And annual monitoring reports for the mitigation planting. That's what I sent over. That is, I agree with Bradford, that's a lot of things. But we probably just need to see a revised plan once more in a hearing before approval.
That's fine. So, what I've done in other situations, like I would seed the little blue stem to a biodegradable mat.
Yeah.
Then
Would you-
plant.
Yep.
Within that mat, just,
Perfect.
that's satisfactory. Okay.
Yeah, I presume you had, the owners had discussions with a neighbor over this and they discussed what's good or bad about it. One of them was taking it. I would think that before you come back, there should be discussion with your neighbor and his understanding of what's being done and proposed by you so that we are not here to resolve the issue between the two neighbors. We're gonna follow the rules. I don't think that, I would like to see a disagreement next time. All I can do is, no, I understand you're not gonna mention it to the owner, yeah.
And I will do that, Mr. Frost.
Lastly, on your project narrative, you may want to revisit the last sentence. It isn't really a good sentence where you say the grade of the front yard was returned to the original configuration. And you put in parentheses more or less. That's not
Just
good.
trying to be honest.
But yeah.
I hear you.
Get it back, so yeah.
Anybody else? I have to be honest, I have a hard time with the curbing. I'd like to see the curbing removed. I like to see the neighbors on both sides do not have curbing. And obviously the water has to go somewhere, hitting the curbing, and then guess it's going to the neighbors, so. Personal preference is just to have the curbing removed. When I was there, it's the first thing I thought of, so that's my opinion.
Well, could we restore it to the cobblestone curbing that originally existed?
You have pictures of that?
Yeah, sort of. You can see that there's a granite curb here, but we don't have any photos, I'm sure.
How high was the original cobblestone?
The cobbles, they're not the regular cobbles.
Inches?
I have some at the dump site.
But should that have been originally permitted to put in?
Sorry, public comment is only available when the chairman requests.
Apologize.
Sorry, can you say it again? There's only
I have some original ones I can match those original ones.
maybe about 3 inches, is that what you're saying?
No, they're more like a 4-inch cobblestone. I can bring one in and show them.
If you could just let us know the difference in height.
Okay, so it's not that much difference in height. As that.
Okay,
I think there was some pictures
the first,
with the cobblestone next to that. I can provide you a picture,
Picture of it with those,
cobblestone right in front of the existing curb that exists, so you can see the difference.
well, I understand there was cobblestone earlier, but, since we're redoing the whole yard, I'm still, I'd like to see no cobble, no, nothing there except for what's in the other, both sides of, both houses. You see further down there, it's right to the street, and I'm sure to the left it is too. But I'd like you to explore that.
You prefer vegetation right to the street.
Yeah, I would. That's, I'm just talking for myself, not for the commission.
We would talk to the owner.
Thank you. So we're going to vote to, continue this. Okay, do I hear a
If
motion?
you, would you
sorry.
like, if we're continuing, would you like 2 weeks, which means you have to have the plan to us in 1 week or more time?
I'd like, I'd like 4 weeks if I could, please.
And that's September 18th.
Excuse me.
September 18th.
Ask again, anybody else in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Appreciate your comments and.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And, a motion to continue, Jack? Second.
Second.
All in favor of continuing to September 18th? Yeah, aye. Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
This is my copy. This thing on this letter. This doesn't get signed.
That's
All right. Okay. Okay, next order of business is SE 83. 94 Cape Cod Engineering for RJ Resorts Blue Water Resort Owner LLC, 291 and 301. Velocity flood zone. SE 832493, JM O'Reilly and Associates for Irene Holmes, 1 Parsonage Point, proposed above grade stairs in the buffer zone to a bordering vegetative wetland and a natural heritage habitat. And I believe we got everything in.
Yes, Natural Heritage issued their comment letter and had no notes and gave a no take.
They'll still need a variance from ZBA, but,
We found that out today, yes.
So did I. I tried to tell you as soon as I could.
It's all right. I appreciate the heads up.
Board of Appeals.
do we need, I don't know, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't.
Okay.
We were waiting for the natural heritage. I think the commission was pretty much satisfied
Yeah.
with their review at that point, so.
If I was just wondering if you could do a revised plan to just fix the 50-foot buffer line.
You did ask me to do that, didn't you? I'm sorry.
That's all. But I'm all set with the project as proposed.
I'll get you that revised plan tomorrow.
Just 1 copy, it's fine.
Okay, anybody have a comment here from the commission? Questions? Anybody in the audience? Brittany?
I'm all set, thanks.
And anybody on Zoom? Don't see anybody, okay. Can I hear a motion to accept plans? Move Paul, second Jack, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Everybody. Thanks, Irene.
Oh. Good. Give me 1 minute to organize myself.
Okay, that page. Okay. And we're at SE 832492. Down Cape Engineering for Natasha and Oliver Bramst, 88 and 100 Mill Lane. Proposal to establish a farm with fencing in the riverfront area. And subject to coastal storm flowage and buffer zones to a coastal bank, salt marsh and bordering vegetated wetland. And if we could focus just on questions from last week, and we don't need to hear everything over again.
Sounds good. I'll try and be brief. For the record, Dan Ojala, I'm a surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport. With me is Leo Kukunis, who is a farmer, well-known farmer on the Cape and familiar with the agricultural right to farm regulations and so forth, if there are any questions of him. I think we went over with some detail the plans. Since the last meeting, we had some revisions to make to the plans, so I'll concentrate on those. I think they're mainly responsive to your requests. We've got a few different resources here. There's the wetlands, which are delineated. Also there's a technical dry resource area, which is a coastal bank, which occurs at a flood zone. I would like to stress that coastal bank is the middle of a pasture. It's barely more than 10% grade. It doesn't look like a coastal bank. It doesn't act like a coastal bank. It would be more like a less than 10%, where you've got a slope where the floodwaters will come up and just recede again, once in a 100-year event. Coastal banks, of course, you're very concerned if there's sediment sources. If you armor them, they can starve a down gradient beach. There's none of that here. This is adjacent to vegetated wetland. It's super stable. It's been cleared since before the turn of the century, and it's been maintained in this pastoral setting, just as it is in excess of, 35 years or so now. So it's a technical resource area, yes, but is it particularly sensitive? I would argue not really. We've submitted a revised farm plan, which we think is responsive. There's some, at the very end, some questions answered to the best of our ability. I did speak with the new health director, Barry Lewis, and informed him, that as we put in our narrative, we'll be filing with them for the stable permits and so forth afterwards. And he knew all about the hearing. He was interested in how it would go tonight. And he said his focus would, of course, be on the manure management, compost management, and so forth. And so I told him that, we've of course concentrated on that. We're using the best management practices that are available from the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, the Food and Agricultural, the UMass Extension Service, the USDA, NRCS, and the EPA. And all of those items are covered. There's a table that how Good Hope Farm is complying. Again, these are sophisticated farmers. They've been doing this for years in New York, and they will.
I'm going to interrupt you. I just really want, and we already know the history of their been in New York and all that. Can we just focus on the changes?
Yeah. So what we did was we noted that there would be, we moved the composting area that I was just discussing a little bit closer to the barn. It's set on an angle so that the water will run to the north away from the shellfish area, which is to the southwest. And what we'll do is, subject to a revised plan or a condition, I'll show a little driveway to that, and we're going to pitch it so that it angles more towards the east than the west. That is important because right now it could technically get down the driveway and flow to the west, where there is a small pond and a little ditch that was dry today, but during and even after the inch of rain or so we had last night, but during a larger event could carry sediments under Mill Lane and towards the shellfish area. So it's very important to us as good citizens, and probably to this commission and certainly the Board of Health, who looks to the manure management, that all that is kept away from that area. So we'll ensure that that's the case. Again, it's a covered roof. We're happy to put a condition of gutters and downspouts to a dry well on that. I think that was a suggestion of one of the neighbors, and it's a good suggestion, so we'll comply with that. And we have on Brittany's request, worked up a sketch for a coir log and a berm swale detail. So I'll just hand these out. It's just a little addendum sketch. I think a picture is just sometimes helpful, so I'll hand these out.
Where's that located?
In his hand. We haven't had it yet. He
Oh.
brought it with him tonight. As in response to questions I submitted this week to help him prepare for the hearing. And is this for erosion control? Is this temporary?
Oh. I just was waiting to speak into the mic.
Yes, I understand. Sorry.
Yeah, what we'd intend to do with this is all along where you've got the green fence, which is down gradient of the main pasture. Put this everywhere. And a lot of, there's some places that have 20-foot buffers, some have 10, some have, less. So but regardless, we thought as a good compromise to either a larger buffer or that sort of thing would create this, and it would be permanent. It's a high density coir log, and it's half buried, and then we're going to put loam and seed and mound up over it. So you'll get instant protection from a coir log. It's semi-pervious, so it'll allow some waters to move through, but it generally traps in at least a 6-inch high swale all along there, any runoff from the pasture lands. And again, we're doing all the BMPs. We're moving the food stations, as far from the fence and, maintaining a healthy pasture land. But we feel that this berm and swale will assist in infiltration and uptake of nutrients prior to entering the buffer. So we'd offer to do that everywhere down gradient of that fence on the whole east side there. And even against the salt marsh on the north side. With respect to the Rivers Act, that was a question that was recently posed, I think yesterday or today. There's small drainage ditches and intermittent streams on Locust. They do not rise to the levels of rivers under the act. The small farm pond is mostly dry right now. The ditch only has a few spots of water in it, no flow even after last night's heavy rain. There's simply no way this short drainage ditch could be considered a river under the act. None of the ditches are mapped as blue lines on the USGS quad maps. That means they're perennial streams. That's generally then the burden of proof is on us to prove that they're not rivers. But here we do not have that burden of proof. And they all have just very limited drainage areas. I inspected the culvert today. It was nice and clean. The upstream end was open. Downstream on Water Street had a natural siltation line of about 50%. But we were able to hear noise through it. It's clean as a whistle. We can maintain that anytime that is requested. Again, the focus of the Board of Health will be on manure management. We can go in with more specificity on that, but I think you've heard our pitch on that. And I don't want to belabor any of these points. Again, there's a couple letters of support. Some of the poor neighbors had been, they've somewhat nervous about saying anything because of the crowd mentality, but it's unfortunate. But this will be a great farm. It has been a great farm. We feel that with the measures shown, the BMPs, it'll continue to be a historic looking and gorgeous property, well maintained, no smells, no odors. The owners live there. They're not interested in having any nuisances and care more about the environment than most people. So I'll leave it at that, and Leo can answer questions if you have them on the act and the right to farm. We'll be looking forward to a positive review and move on to the health department for their review. Thank you.
Anybody on the commission have questions or comments?
Just have a general question.
Wade mentioned something.
Yeah, I think it might be good.
I just have a general question on, it's funny because when I went to school, there was this one book called Design with Nature by Ian McCargan, how there's always this we want to get back to the original state of what this property was. And I just want to know, in your professional opinion, it was a farm before, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it looks like you tried to do minimal impact to what it was before. You tried to work with that. Am I correct in saying that?
I think that's 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, just about 100% accurate. There was a very professional wetland scientist that did the original analysis and laid out the pastures and maintained the original clearing line. The photographs go back to the 30s. This was all cleared farmland. And in the 80s, they found it proper to put the fences right where they are today. From 2012, this, I think I had held up before, is the beautiful farm property exactly as it is today and exactly as we want to maintain it. The only differences will be very subtle BMPs, tipping the grade here and there and shifting it so that we don't impact
And
no blame.
stormwater management back
Stormwater,
then,
yeah,
probably, so.
well,
Yeah.
not as much, but again, this is an agricultural use and there's not very many impervious areas. We're fine to have all gravel driveways if you want to make that a condition. Leo had mentioned and just wanted to pop in there that in his professional opinion, leaving that kind of it's a private well. The irrigation system doesn't draw from the town water, but just to maintain that the buffers even right up to the fence is pretty important because if you get a big drought like it is now, well, could you just say a word or two to that, Leo? It
okay.
was a question on whether we should maintain the
I'd like you to
irrigation.
keep it short, Leo, if
I'll
you
keep it
could.
very short. Don't mandate that the sprinkler system be removed. It's completely against not only best management practices, but any common sense. The whole idea of having a really nice, healthy pasture, green grass, nice thick grass, is because that is going to absorb a lot of the nutrients and it's going to also prevent runoff.
Yeah,
And
I
it's going
haven't
to
heard
prevent runoff
anybody
and
in this
heavy.
commission talk about getting.
Well, it
rid
was
of
in
irrigation.
one of the correspondence, the discussion about removing the sprinkler system from the pasture. And I just want to draw your attention to all over the Cape. We had a very, very dry summer. I even have the situation on my farm where I have areas now that are just dust because the grass has died. You don't want that. So I would caution you if you're thinking of that.
I'm sorry, are you saying that you advocate for the use of the irrigation and sprinkling system?
Absolutely.
Okay. Dan made a comment about how that the water doesn't come from the town supply, but it does, doesn't it? Doesn't it all come from the same aquifer?
No.
Well, just to clarify on that point through the chair, it's an irrigation well that's on the property that draws. That is a separate aquifer from the zone twos. Is it the same general groundwater? Yes. So, I mean, we're kind of semantics here, but we're not taxing the town's water system. It's only drawing from the site.
Yeah, I guess it's just because it's a kind of sensitive issue right now, because I know that if you have a private well, you can irrigate your lawn, but if you don't, there are restrictions. So I wondered how that applied to this particular situation.
That's an excellent point. And in periods of drought, having an on-site well is very important. And it's a big aquifer and there's plenty of capacity here. We've never had a problem.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else in the commission? Like you want to?
Well, I commend your coming up with your more detailed farm plan. I think that I'd like to see, as you add more specifics about the rotations of and application of chemicals or the irrigation systems they're using, would like to know what that is so that we understand the impact on the erosion and the way the chemicals go off the farm. So that's my number one is we could go down the current things that you have here, discuss them, but I think there's not enough detail to really discuss them, but like the irrigation or other kind of things. So if that falls, Brittany, under our to request the farm plan changes and more detail over the years, we can do that.
You want more detail from the plan that they provided last week?
Well, not necessarily right now, because they probably won't have the answers.
Updates. Yeah, well, I think we'd be
Well, no, you
happy to
don't have
provide
the
it.
answers, but I'm talking about each best management practice and how you're going to apply it, the specifics of the schedules, the kind of chemicals you're using. I don't think you have those kind of things. And I'd like to see, as you develop those farm plan, that it
Yeah, I mean, there's general statements, they're very low pesticide or use, and the fertilizers, we try and just use the carefully
Yeah, no,
composted
I understand.
organics.
That's fine. I'm just asking that, as you bring on your goats, you're proposing 30 now. And I guess, are you thinking of going back up to your 40? Or do you know where your top level would be? These are the questions that I would like to see as they change and get answers to those.
So you're talking kind of like,
An
so
update.
you're kind of requesting
Just
an update or,
updates in more detail as you go along. That's what I'm asking for.
so you'd be requesting a special condition for annual updates on farm
I'm not
management?
saying annual, I think that that would be up to your professional, what you think is enough to really be able to say, here's what I'm doing with the rotations, for instance, the type of fencing, are you moving fences? It looks like you're not. So forth and so on about each of the practices.
I think a condition that we update the commission with significant farm changes as they occur would be fine. If you want to put every 2 years or significant change, I think that would be fine too. Natasha is a good note taker, so I don't think that would be overly burdensome.
Mr. Chair.
Um,
Wait a minute. Jack, you have something else?
Yeah. You have a list of compliance and filings, for instance, farm stands and events and things like that. I don't think we can, this is out of our purview, but for instance, archaeological sites and, if you find anything like that, that should be a part of that list. Road use, traffic. I'd like to, somebody in the town is going to want to know how many trucks, and in Barnstable, I may add, because you're going to go over in Barnstable County. So I see that this is a big issue that you should put on your list there, that when you run into a problem, increased traffic, you're going to go to the appropriate people to in town, both towns, to get changes to permits or whatever it takes.
You are right. That's outside our purview, Jack.
I'm sorry?
You're right. That's outside our purview.
No, I know, but it's in the farm plan and you've listed it. And so I'd like to see that list a little bigger, that's all, that you are aware of those.
Yeah, we'll comply with all regulations pertinent to a farm use, commercial
Yeah,
farm
but I'd
use
like to be
for
sure
traffic,
that
but
you list at least those I've mentioned, if not more.
well.
I'm not sure they need to list them.
Jack, I'm not sure we have the right to ask them to do things that aren't in our purview.
Yeah.
But while we were on fertilizer, I was just still unclear in the current submission. Are you proposing to use the compost on the pasture or only in the raised beds?
Would we use a little bit on the pasture as well, the nice compost?
Felt it was helpful to maintain the pasture, but not as a practice regularly. You know, if there's
You should probably speak in the mic, Natasha, for the record, and say who you are.
So mostly for grade
Hi, everybody.
repairs.
Natasha Brahms. I have no current intention of doing that, but if there is, for example, an area that we want to add nutrients to in a small amount, we might do that rather than using synthetic nutrients, if you know what I mean. But no, that's not the intention. It would be in the flower growing area and excess would be
Okay,
taken
and,
off the property.
and in your farm plan, you said that you'd be testing the soil every 3 years. And
Yes.
is that in the pasture as well, or just in the flower?
That is in advance of, yes, anywhere that we would be adding it, we would be doing that to make sure it was necessary.
If needed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's wait to close the door so we can hear you.
Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Just had a question through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Frost mentioned chemicals and the addition of chemicals. I hope, I want to clarify, this irrigation system is not a chemigation system. I mean, I'm not sure if that's where you was headed with that. I just want to clarify, because on my farm, I have an irrigation system that I inject my pesticides, my fertilizers, my herbicides through that system. This is not that case at all. This is just a conventional homeowner, if you will, style irrigation system. And from what my understanding is, though, they're going to upgrade the system so that it has a water sensitive reaction on it. It's kind of like one of the houses I take care of where, you know, it's certainly dry. It'll come on. If it's raining out, it won't come on, that kind of thing. But it's not a chemigation system. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, that's important.
When it's not triggered, is that set up to water every day? No, so just whenever.
Anybody else in the commission?
Yeah, I just, the final comment from me, I think that the applicant has gone through all of the concerns and has presented a nice farm plan. And I think that, thinking about what Jack has said here, we're all subject to questions with all of our property if we do something that's tends to be, or it looks to be problematic. And so that would apply also to this property and all of our properties. So I think that it seems, as far as I'm concerned, all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed in terms of the establishment of this enterprise in that location. And I wish everybody a lot of luck with it. And certainly, if there's a concern, it will be discussed at the appropriate level in the future. So thank you for bringing this to us, and thank you for doing all the work that would result in the reestablishment of a very nice farm.
We appreciate those words, and you'll be well served by these people. I'm sure of it.
Go ahead.
I just want to echo that. The best management practices matrix that you did was excellent. I don't know what else you could have done, all of the resources and references. And then I think, you know, it's good to keep in mind that this project, you will go in front of preservation for the fence and all that. I mean, there's different
Health
reviews that will
department, yeah.
happen that are out of our purview, and so it's a comprehensive review. But from a conservation standpoint, it's just a very, very exciting project.
Yeah, I just want to say that I appreciate you moving the manure composting area and turning it. I think that was one of the concerns. I have a few others that I want to bring up. According to NRCS, there should be a 15-foot buffer between the wetlands and the fence. And but now that you've presented this log berm swale detail, I think I have to sit with Brittany and understand whether that,
Your own opinion, Stephen.
whether that takes the place of the 15-foot buffer. Unless you have a comment now on it. I don't want to put pressure on you, but
I prefer more time to review something received the same day.
okay.
But definitely, it was noted that you're following these list of BMPs, but one of them is maintaining a healthy vegetated buffer. And the minimum distance cited in one of those was that it would have to be 15 feet. And the vegetated buffer that exists is between 2 feet and 10 feet around, which doesn't meet it in most locations. And with a, you know, mildly conservative bump out with some mild planting and allowance for some native pasture grasses to be matured instead of mowed, I think a buffer could go a long way for water quality and for comfort. Having this pasture so close to the wetland with just a small vegetated buffer. I appreciate you thinking of the stormwater with the berm and swale. They could work together. I don't know if one takes the place of the other, but both are appreciated and both were listed in the BMPs.
I also want, are you done?
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see, sorry, I read all the letters, especially the ones that were written between last meeting and this meeting. And I do have a couple of questions or comments about that. Number one is why manure only every 3 days? Does irrigating affect the impact of the water runoff? So that's a question I have. I don't know if you have an answer for that, or you want to,
What was the question, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
why the manure, picking up the manure only every 3 days, does irrigating affect the impact of the water runoff? In other words, you have stuff down there and then you're irrigating. Is it?
You want to answer it now? You want the answers?
I'll take a crack at it. What I would say is that when we irrigate these fields, we don't irrigate them enough to create runoff. It's just a quarter inch at a time, just a gentle but steady setting in. If you have a downburst from a thunderstorm, that would be something which you'd expect to see a little bit of sheet flow even off a turf lawn. But the irrigation system simply doesn't generate that sort of volume that would carry in significant amounts. And then these are small pelleted. And we're keeping them up on the food stations. Will hug the up gradient side. They usually, poop where they eat, away from the fence. And between those two things and cleaning them up every few days, the donkeys create just a little bit more. But again, they're because they're a little bit heavier and they have more of a horse type manure than the pellets. But again, those are easy cleanup, and we'll tend to them as needed. Again, these folks live here. They drive by every day. They don't want smells. They don't want odors. They don't want. And so that's our guess as to a reasonable amount, but we'll certainly fine tune it as needed. But I wouldn't think that would get significant runoff from just a light irrigation on a healthy turf lawn with a small pelletized manure.
Okay. Let's see. The vehicle access to the shed itself is how, if they want to move the manure that's.
Yeah, we'll create a little driveway up to that shed that peels off the existing barn driveway and tips the grade and sheets it to the east, where we've got a pretty significant buffer. And depending on how it works out, I did notice Lynn Hamlin is a very accomplished wetland scientist. She did the delineation prior to the recent one, and she was a little bit more gave us a little bit more generous a buffer. So when I was looking at my colored sheet from 2012. I think Paul pulled it in a little bit in some places that he could have perhaps shown a little bit more of a vegetated buffer, but I don't know where I'm going with that, except that we'll take a careful look at it and work with Brittany on a exact buffer thickness. But I think with the berm, 10 feet, it'd be absolutely plenty. Maybe we could leave it as is, but we'll certainly discuss it.
Right. Also, I don't know what the proposed farm stand's going to look like, but if there's any new buildings proposed within our jurisdiction, you obviously have to come back to us.
Of course, yeah.
No vista pruning.
That's accurate. Without permission, no vista pruning.
Okay. And you've already answered my other question about the compost being mostly used in the flower and veggie gardens, and
That's accurate.
let me just make sure I have nothing else here. I am wondering if in the weather forecast, like I know surprise thunderstorms, nobody can, that's why they're called surprise. But if we know there's a big storm coming, whether they should pick up the manure before that storm, even if it's within the 3 days. Can we put that in as a condition?
You could put it in as a condition, but I will just tell you in reality, and as being a 35-year or 40-year farmer here, it's a lot easier to pick up freshly dropped hard pelleted manure than it is manure or freshly dropped manure that has been rained on and it becomes wet and clumpy. So I even want to say that about the sprinkler system. It's not going to be running daily. You had mentioned that we said we'd probably be picking up the manure every 3 days. I'm sure it's going to be coordinated with the time that the sprinklers go off. The sprinklers do not run during the day because the animals do not like getting wet from the sprinklers. So they'll either run early morning or late afternoon. And that's going to give the owner time to go out and pick up the manure when they know that the sprinklers are running every Thursday, say, or every third day, something like that. So I think it's very, very easily managed.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'd say and fully customizable to that if we have a wet spring, they wouldn't be going off at all. But if in a drought like this, you're probably looking at every third day for sure.
Okay. So the only thing outstanding for me is the 15-foot buffer versus whether the berm swale takes the place of that, or whether we can move the buffer back, but that's something, Brittany,
It's not up to David. I would.
I mean, something we'll talk about.
Yeah, I would encourage the
Sure.
applicant to consider whatever you're willing to propose, and I think a buffer would go a long way in combination with the swale, depending on how much pasture you're willing to plant. So I think a buffer would be greatly appreciated to be added where, especially where it's 0 or 2 feet, to expand it in some fashion to create some sort of buffer where none or very small one exists. And so I'm sure the commission would appreciate a buffer with the swale if it's really small, or just a buffer. I'm not sure if they would.
Revegetated.
Yeah, so
Could we compromise on an 8-foot revegetated buffer where less than 10, and then you'll have more than 10 almost everywhere, except then you'll have some 8-footers? Would that be reasonable to this, I mean, just to put a number on it? I think we could make that work.
on all around 8 feet.
Yeah, I would say on the wetland side, on the salt marsh side, I think it's already 10, so, you know, that's all set out there. I don't think we'd be doing anything out there. But against that wetland, where it isn't 8 feet currently, would make it 8 feet, and would also install the berm.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman, may I also add to that train of thought also? I think one of the first things I said when I came up to the mic 2 weeks ago or last week when we were here, that I've been encouraging, and I certainly hope that the town of Yarmouth will encourage to work with the applicant on doing something with that freshwater wetland, if you will, where the Belgazekians had the trails going through there and had it quite maintained at some point. And now with the current towns really across the Cape looking at going in there and doing reclaiming of those type of areas to create the right kind of buffer. My little bit of a concern is when we just designate a 15-foot planted buffer, and 5 years from now, that becomes an area for invasive species, things we really don't want. And it becomes, I'm a big one for property needs to be managed. The concept of letting nature take its course is, I'm sorry, we've already screwed with nature too much, so that doesn't exist anymore. So I would just like the board to keep in mind that I believe, and I will speak for the applicants, you're going to see them again. They want to do the right thing. And this is a perfect, absolute perfect location for a reclaiming of a wetland area. I'm going through the same thing with a piece of property that I just donated to the tech school. And we're looking at it doing 2.5 acres in combination with a piece that the Howard Conservation Trust is doing. So I think things like that are going to definitely help and ease your concerns when you talk about the buffer around there.
It's heavy phragmites in a lot of it.
Yeah.
when you're
Lot.
done. Um, I appreciate what has been said here about your overwhelming trying to keep the property natural in the way that you approach management, and that you're going to look out for the neighbors, and everything you've mentioned is great. And I think that it's an onus on you because this is an iconic national
Pleasure.
place that people come over that bridge and they see what's happened, you know, the vista. And I have a long history with trying to get vistas recognized as a use, which goes back to some of the early river basin efforts I've involved with in the 70s. And I think that what it does, though, put you on notice for what you've already tried to emphasize, the kind of things that you're doing and will do better, but also that the neighbors and all the tourists that come through there know if they see anything amiss, they're going to notice it. And that includes, you've got 6 or more possible future uses for this, and including your floral, you're talking about goats being, you know, giving away or selling goats, kids, using the goats for invasive plant management. I presume you're talking about to customers, dairy operation. The creamery possibility, and then you've mentioned trails. You're talking about long-term uses that you're gonna have to really have the world looking at you, including our town, which is actually has defined in this bylaw, your operation farming as commercial. And you are jumping off into that. Combining the scenery with commercial, and that's a tough road, good luck.
Thank you. It is one of the most beautiful properties and areas that I've ever been in. And as a lifelong resident, it's just a treasure, and I couldn't ask for nicer people to run it. It's just, I couldn't be happier to be part of this. Thank you.
Where's that taken?
This is from the
Corner, precarious corner.
probably from here, looking at this little wetland.
So, well, do they need to resubmit a planned study? Can you walk us through the berm now, or do you need to lay it out?
Well, what,
Terms would be.
yeah, so if you'd like to condition it, you would have it along the east side, the green line along the east side, all along the mowed pasture, all around the eastern wetland. I don't believe would need it against the coastal bank on the north. There you'd be disturbing soils, I think, unnecessarily, because you've got a large existing buffer, and it's very healthy turf over there. And it's a much smaller watershed. If you notice, it's just a very, like, 40 feet of pitched area. So it doesn't have the volume that the swale would pick up around the bowl. So it would be, you could say it's through flag A17 down to the beginning. A17 is up at the lot line, and it would follow all the way down to A flag A, whatever, 30 something on the southeast corner. It would be through flag A34. So if we
Probably 30.
proposed a swale from A17 through A34 along that green, I think that'll pick up, the vast majority of the pasture lands that are pitching towards that wetland. And again, importantly, not towards the shellfish area, which is to the west. And that would be happy to give you a revised plan showing that, contingent upon, approval.
Anybody else in the commission? We'll open it up to the public. I'll come back to you afterwards, so.
So is that, are you going to show a buffer as well, or just the swale?
Well,
And I understand, I understand the concern about a buffer, but if they're having all these future plans, you can still do a forb and grass buffer and, have it be transitioned to natives once they start their native management plan for the wetland. I just think that, I know there's a lot of vines and everything there, but
yeah,
roots are roots. And if the more roots we can get in between the pasture and the wetland, the better. So it's,
I think if we keep the grapes and the Phragmites mowed back, we could maintain at a minimum an 8-foot buffer. So if there's an area, like you say, that's only 3 feet right now, we'll plant 5 feet and then have the fence. So we'd be happy to show that in that same area as well on a revised plan.
okay.
So 8-foot minimum on that whole stretch from the flags that I mentioned, A17 to A34. At a minimum, you'll have an 8-foot buffer plus the swale built into the buffer and maintained with natives. And that will help filter. And I think, I think we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you. Okay, we'll turn it over to people in the audience. Anybody have any comments, questions? I see a hand in the way back. Come up here and tell us who you are and.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank all of you for serving on this board.
Can
I know
you
it's not
talk
an
into the
easy
microphone
job.
a little bit more?
Is that better? Better. I have been in that neighborhood since 1978.
Tell us who you are first.
My name is Jean Young.
Jean Young.
The area was zoned residential when I built there. The area was zoned in 1987 when the Belzekians built and bought and built there. When they sold the land and home in 2012, it was zoned residential. That area has never been zoned as a farm.
The Belzekians, when they sold it, advertised it as a quote, gentleman farm. It was never used as pasture land on that side of the road. The pasture land for the cow was on the other side of the road behind my house. That land has since been sold and 2 homes have gone up in that area. So it has not become less residential, it has become more residential.
Under our purview. I don't think zoning's under our purview either. Zoning.
I can't hear you, I'm
It's got
sorry.
nothing to do with zoning is what she's telling me. So
It has everything to do with what's been brought up in these meetings. I was at the last one and I was at this one. I have heard it, this piece of property referred to as farmland repeatedly. It has never been used as agricultural farm or industrial farmland, ever, going back to 1600. There may have been some apple trees and pear trees in that time. And at the same time that you're talking about farming and how important it is for farms in that area, which was brought up in the last meeting, there is an oyster farm just at the mouth of Mill Pond. That is totally going to be destroyed by the runoff from everything that's going on this land. Never mind the shellfishing that's going on across the street from where this farm is being put in. It's totally been misrepresented what's going on in this area. It has not been a farm. And the people who bought it in 2012 were never there, never had a dog on the property, never mind other animals. So farm, no, it is not a farm. I want to know when exactly it became designated as industrial or agricultural or any other kind of land other than residential. That's my question. And I am angry, totally upset about what is being represented here from Greg talking about being raised on the farm. He was in college when his parents bought that farm. And these, by the way, are all issues that were brought up at the last meeting. These are not things that I'm bringing up for the first time.
but
Do you have a question?
we don't, I don't have a question, no. I can just say to you that as far as zoning is concerned, that's something you can take up with the zoning board, but not with us.
Well, I'm wondering why you are referring to it as zoned as a farm,
No.
why you are referring to it as a farm.
I
Why
mean,
you're-
to be clear, the application is to establish the use of the property as a farm.
And if I could through the chair,
Frank,
Yeah.
Jack, I want to call you Frank all the time. Jack, you have something?
So could I just ask?
The
until
chairman
it
referred
has
to
it-
Commissioner Frost to speak.
Essentially, your point is that this is an application for a new farm. This is an application for a new farm. They came in originally that it was a farmland and historically, and that they would like to prove it. But the bylaw for the town for farm, right to farm, states that farming is commercial. So there was never any doubt from our viewpoint that this is a new farm and they meet the standards for it. Because
And so until it's been established as a farm, could we just please refer to it as something other than a farm? Because it's not a farm.
it depends on who you're talking to. That's all.
Yeah, people who want to put cows on, goats and sheep and donkeys on it want it
Have
to be a
anything else you
farm.
want to say?
Can't hear you.
Do you have anything else to add?
I have a lot, but I understand that you only want to address things when I'm standing here at the podium that have to do with pollution. And I believe that this is a great risk for the existing oyster farm that is at the mouth of Mill Pond.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
1 minute.
Not a report, no. They just requested that BMPs be followed to maintain water quality.
Yeah, and just to respond briefly, you know, and I understand there's a lot of passion over this, but this was the approval, the request. Construct a barn and supported facilities for farm animals. This was approved by this board in the early 80s. You know, construct necessary fencing around the open pasture areas to contain grazing animals within those areas. It's every single one of these is a farm use. It wasn't exactly hidden, and they constructed a beautiful thatched barn and had animals. There's photographs of the animals grazing on this field right here. So I know memories can be selective, but you know, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. Thank you.
Relevant, really, whether it was a farm or not, because as Jack said.
Well, I don't like to be
There's a
considered a
time limit.
liar, so.
There's a time limit in the last 5 years, how many years? 5 years.
Yeah, there's a
So-
limit, but it was a farm.
Audience. Yes, please.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Paul Fitzgerald. I live on Kevanny Lane on the Barnstable side of the bridge. I wanted to address something that my wife and I had retained Arlene Wilson to review and make comments on the plans, the NOI and the support materials filed by Natasha and Oliver Bramps on the Mill Pond Creek LLC. Arlene Wilson has submitted her full thoughts and comments in a letter to the commission on 18 August. Arlene cannot be here this evening because of a prior commitment. I'm going to highlight her comments as follows. Based on the information provided and not provided by the applicant, this is a new agricultural product and must abide by both the state and town wetlands protection regulation. I know I'm not telling you anything, but this is her thoughts. The applicants have not requested a variance. To do so, they would need to show that the project would improve the ecological conditions over what exists, would not adversely affect any area subject to protection under your regulations, and or that the project provides an overriding public benefit and there is no feasible alternative to the proposed work. The applicants have not requested a variance because they cannot make those requisite showings. My concerns relative to the water quality have been addressed in the letter you received from Arlene Wilson Associates and also covered by comments from other neighbors. I would like to insert a little bit of my own history here as Jack did when he spoke, is that I was not notified as an official abutter. I believe I should have been, as Hallett's Mill Pond directly abuts and influences my property. The tidal estuary on the west side is affected every day by what flows from the pond, with the tide changing twice daily. At certain high tides, which occur a few times each season, the water rises up onto my lawn and has even spilled into my vegetable garden. This is not an abstract concern for me or my neighbors. It is where we live and how we live. I swim in the estuary from May through October, as do many of the Kevanny Lane neighbors. Families such as my next door neighbor, the Kittredges, often bring friends and schoolmates to jump from the bridge at high tide, riding the current into the pond and floating back with the tide into the estuary, and then all the way to the short wharf on Water Street. Fishing is seasonal and popular here, depending on what's running. Some of us on the Cumberland side also shellfish in the pond, as part of it lies within Barnstable. For these reasons, even though I was not formally notified, I feel it is important to share how decisions made on the Yarmouth side of the bridge directly impact the quality of the pond, the estuary, and Barnstable Harbor, and by extension, the health and safety of those who swim, fish, shellfish, and boat throughout the year. Finally, anyone who has driven over the bridge knows the sound of the gulls dropping quahogs, mussels, and scallop shells to crack them open. If the pond's outflow becomes contaminated by bacteria, closing the shellfishing and swimming, but that will not stop the gulls or the contamination from spreading further into the estuary. This decision is sensitive and important. I ask you to be absolutely certain that the proposed goat farm will not have a harmful impact on the pond, the estuary, and the harbor. Any negative changes here would alter this environment and the way generations of residents from both Barnstable and Yarmouth have used and enjoyed it. I simply urge you not to act on this proposal until you have a site plan that is detailed, complete, and in full compliance with your regulations. which the current plan is not.
Your hand.
Hello, my name is Paul Messier. I live on Thatcher Shore Road in Yarmouth Port. Looking at essentially what we're talking about here, water quality and the protection of the water quality, it comes down to a risk assessment, and that's seemingly what this commission. Sure, yeah. What I said was, we're talking about a risk assessment here, and I'm wondering what the standard for risk is. Looking at the documents that are compiled online, there's a letter from the Massachusetts Department of Fisheries, and in that letter, it seems like the risk is absolute. It says no contamination. The plan has to ensure no contamination. And I'm not sure I've heard anything here that eliminates the risk. And I'm wondering if that's the standard that's applied here. And can we get an objective evaluation of the risk that, in fact, the risk is zero?
Taking notes, that's why I have these CIPs. As I was taking notes, that's why I was looking down. I don't want you to think I was ignoring you. Anybody else? Yes.
Mr. Chairman and members, Joshua Stain, 128 Water Street, right across the street from 88 Mill Lane. Thank you for listening. Despite the 75-minute presentation, detailed feedback, and 2 weeks to respond, the applicant's NOI still violates numerous state and town regulations. To help this commission do its legally required job, and for the record, I'd like to make some comments. First, the plan fails to protect wetlands and wildlife. Much of the fencing would be inside protected riverfront, coastal banks, tidal lands, floodlands, and up against the wetlands edge with little to zero buffer, which we've heard tonight, and a steep drop off. This violates state wetland regulation 310 CMR 10.02. 8 feet is not the minimum. The law states the buffer, and no variance has been requested. Second, much fencing would be within the 35 to 50 foot no disturbance buffer zone. Mr. Ohala conceded that it's within 8 or 10 feet. The applicant has not explained why this won't cause a substantial adverse impact. This violates town wetlands regulation, section 6.02. The applicant hasn't addressed or even evaluated how its 4.5 to 6 foot high metal welded wire and raised stone wall fencing, especially in buffer areas, would obstruct the vital wildlife corridors that deer, otters, and other wild animals use to move between this and abutting conservation land. This fencing would be far taller and less permeable than past split rail fencing. And as the applicant said last time, quote, the donkeys will kick the teeth out of whatever bothers the goats, and these little suckers, the goats, can jump to other land. This failure and obstruction violate 310 CMR 10.02 2B2B. Fourth, the applicant hasn't provided any evidence showing why its alterations should be allowed, how they meet the rigorous regulatory performance standards, why they won't have a significant adverse effect, and why no practical alternative with less adverse effects exists. They haven't explored this, and they are legally required to under the regulations. This violates 310 CMR 10.58. Second, the plan poses unacceptable risk to water quality. Their plan would result in discharging of animal waste, pesticide, and fertilizer into water resource areas, violating Mass Division of Marine Fisheries requirement of, quote, no runoff or animal waste or associated nutrients into nearby wetlands or waterways, end quote. It also violates the town stormwater regulations ban on such discharges, and it violates the town's wetland regulations ban on fertilizer such as manure within 35 to 50 feet of wetlands. And let me explain a little bit why. First, siting the shed on a high point and letting 30 to 40 animals graze on downward sloping pastures would maximize illegal animal waste, pesticide, and fertilizer discharges and polluted runoff into wetlands. In 2012, Down Cape helped document runoff across Mill Lane into Mill Pond and the hydrological link from 88 Mills wetland system through catch basins and an underground pipe to wetlands on the other side of Water Street. The plan currently, as submitted, omits these conveniently. These interconnected water resources would spread contamination, not act as a biofilter, as Mr. Ohala represented. Second, the area's documented poorly draining soils, standing surface water, and flooding of abutting lots would worsen illegal pollutant runoff. Picking up manure only 3 times per week would increase contamination runoff. What if it rains on no collection days? What if it rains very hard or there are major thunderstorms or hurricanes coming up the coast with gale force winds? At the last hearing, the applicant said it didn't even know if Mill Lane's culvert works and whether its operations would further harm Mill Pond and its shellfish. Today, it appears and says it can hear whistling through the pipe, and somehow we're all supposed to be comfortable that that's adequate for not harming Mill Lane and its shellfish and adhering to a zero runoff standard set by the state and local regulations. Further, the state's design and location atop a steep hill would leave zero room for error. It contradicts the very Mass DFA fact sheet that the applicants themselves filed, which requires manure storage to be contained, impermeable all the way around, not just the floor, and away from sloped lands. Given the area's high flood and wind risk, its roof wouldn't prevent stormwater from flowing from the barn side, mixing with manure, and running off down the hill. Manure facilities' concrete pads, research shows, are well known to be prone to cracks, particularly when the manure piles dry up during the wet, non-growing season, as the applicant said they would allow to do. Despite time to update their filing, the NOI's shed image still lacks even basic runoff, anti-runoff sloping, gutters, and settling basins. Mr. Ohala now says they'll do some of that. It's not in the application. As I noted, state and town regulations require no runoff. Saying there can be no runoff doesn't make it so. Despite your request, the applicant still has not submitted legally adequate best management practices. Its new one-page chart names 12 different BMPs, cites sources that have hundreds of pages irrelevant to what they would do on this land, and claims compliance by having one column reciting a few BMP buzzwords. The applicant's NRCS references, if you've looked them up, are to national standard documents that NRCS specifies on its website, quote, should not be used to plan, design, or install a conservation practice, end quote. A legally compliant plan requires specific, engineered, enforceable strategies with timelines and monitoring to prevent harm to stormwater, flood control, and habitat. The applicant's plan lacks all of these. Finally, the fecal coliform bacteria risk is substantial. The proposed animals would generate nearly 1/2 ton of manure weekly with higher nitrogen concentration than cows or horses. They will pollute legally protected areas with illegal bacteria and nitrogen pollution. The applicant's assertion that smaller waste is less hazardous is simply false. And despite claiming extensive farm experience, they continue to withhold from this commission weekly manure volume figures that are needed to properly analyze what the actual risk is to the surrounding wetlands and waterways. As Mr. Frost said regarding the fireworks matter, quote, "As we get older, we realize more about the impacts that these things have," end quote. That's the case with 88 Mill Lane. For example, the town's stormwater management regulations didn't even exist, but when the Belazekians built this property. We also didn't know that Mill Pond would be closed for 30 years due to fecal coliform bacteria, and the list goes on. In conclusion, the applicant suggests that they will return for future approvals. But as I think some of the members of this commission have alluded to, if this project is approved, it could qualify for exemptions that would allow future expansion without further scrutiny, leaving the town only to its own resources to enforce whatever you decide here. We urge the commission to carefully consider the current NOI and the undetailed extensive future plans. This NOI should be denied. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ron Gable. My property shares a boundary with 88 Mill Lane. The new owners propose housing 30 goats and 2 donkeys at 88 Mill Lane. They will spend from sunrise to sunset on the pastures, depositing manure and urine in downward sloping areas to run off. Every day, the animals will deposit hundreds of pounds of coliform bacteria-rich feces in the pastures, which will not be mitigated by every third day. Feces will cause environmental What's substantial understanding how to start up already. So this project. I'm sure it's shell fishing because of contamination with colorful material. Shell fishing. Likely to at least include can be expected to increase the number of days that a high density of coliform bacteria in the mill pond will shut down shell fishing. The farm's additional load of coliform bacteria may in fact permanently prohibit commercial shell fishing in the pond and make it unfit for swimming and other recreational activities. The proposal is from adverse effects on water quality are unacceptable.
Please raise your hand. The one person,
Sam. Sam.
Sam. Are you muted? I can't tell. Sam, you're calling on you.
Sam, you're live. Any comments on Zoom? If none, we will move on. He's not doing it. So anyone else on Zoom? Edward, I can't see.
Isn't there?
Hi, can you hear us? Sorry, it's Sam.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's Rachel. I'm on Sam's computer. It's Rachel Rosen from 128 Water Street. I want to commend the person on the commission who actually seemed to have read our letters, and we greatly appreciate that you consider the laws that we are bringing up. I want to stress, and I hope the new owners understand this, that the people that are speaking on our behalf and on the behalf of the neighborhood have lived there for 40 and 50 years. The new owners have not even spent a full week in the neighborhood. The people here are speaking out of their heart because they've seen the ups and downs of the water supply in our area. I'm extremely concerned that we're talking about how wetting manure is a good thing. No way is wetting manure a good thing. While you may be able to pick it up easier, wetting it puts it in the water supply. So I'm very bothered by this whole conversation about how we should let sprinklers run on the poop. This is incredibly disturbing. And while this may be best farm practice when you're not in a wetlands, it cannot be a best practice when you're in the wetlands. I would strongly urge everybody on this commission to really follow the law, not just rubber stamp something because it's in front of the committee. Every single person here has researched this, hired lawyers, hired experts to understand all of the issues that are involved here. So please make sure you do your due diligence before you approve this.
I think if you've been listening, we are doing our due diligence. We haven't rubber stamped anything. And also, I think you misheard the wetting of the manure. It's just the opposite. They would be doing the manure before they irrigate, or if there was a big storm coming before a big storm. So I just want to make those two corrections, but I will definitely defend what we're doing and how we're working this through and listening to both sides and making decisions and spending a lot of time on it ourselves. Thank you. Anybody else online?
Is Vincent?
What?
Vincent?
Vincent? Someone has good eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize because I know this is outside your purview, but I would just like to know at what point it will be within the purview of one of the committees that's going to be reviewing this application as it goes forward. I live at 48 Mill Lane. The lane is barely capable of having two cars pass one another. So I know it's not your issue, but can you tell me which commission will be looking at the issues associated with traffic?
I don't know. I don't know at this time. I don't know if there's a committee that refuses that.
Ask the town manager, because I really don't know the answer to that question. Would it be the DPW? I mean, I've often asked that question in relationship to other things going on in town, is who does traffic studies. To be honest with you, I don't get a very good answer. So you might ask the town manager's office.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, because as all the roads around here are very narrow. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes why we like living here.
Just to address the traffic issue, just to address this traffic issue, we probably have, sorry, can you hear me now? Natasha Bromst. To address the traffic issue, I'm sorry, Natasha Bromst, I'm the applicant. Thank you, sorry about that. We probably have, I don't know, all over 4 hay trucks a year. I just want to, because there's a lot of statements.
Nothing to do with.
I understand, but traffic should not be a material issue for people to be concerned about.
Deal with that in another group of people. We have enough to deal with here.
The
Anybody
DPW
else
would,
online?
that's fine.
Okay, I don't see anybody.
So
Commissioners, anybody? Yeah, we'll start with Paul.
Yeah, thank you. It's been interesting to listen to all of the folks who live over in that area. Certainly some very knowledgeable people about an awful lot of laws and regulations and so on. And I just would want to say the next time we have an opening on this committee, I'd love to have some of you participate. Something that we have trouble with sometimes. We're volunteers to this town. We don't get paid anything. We're not a rubber stamp type of a committee. We try to do a friendly job in terms of watching out for the environment and doing our best to help with the enforcement of the Wetland Protection Act. So you may say things that are imperfect, and so do we. But please be assured that we're doing our best to consider all of your concerns. It is kind of interesting that the establishment of a farm is such a problem in an area that was built upon agriculture. I can only wonder what would have happened in 1639 or whenever it was if people had to make an application for a farm in those days. I think what you're doing is perfectly appropriate, is speaking your minds, giving us some more information, helping us with the consideration. But please remember that we're with you too. We're townspeople. I don't live far from that area. I've always enjoyed that area. And we would do nothing, I'm sure, to ever, judge or to vote for something that we thought was extremely deleterious to that particular area or any other area in town. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle because people are always second guessing the Wetland Protection Act requirements and so on and so forth. And I hope you understand that all these folks next to me are doing their best to work in a way that is in the best interest of this town. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I wish I brought my binder with me with the Wetlands Protection Act. I mean, we all are as familiar and we we are getting continuing ed on it and I just want to make it clear that we do follow the guidelines. Let's talk about the difference between, because seems to be the subject at hand is manure. Is it a fiscal reason why am I saying it right? The BioVator is not being utilized? Could you explain to me how that would improve the manure removal versus the structure? I mean, I'm leaning here that might be something you need to do, is this BioVator. If you could just tell me the pros and cons and is it a fiscal issue?
It's $30,000. It's a substantial investment. But we're of the opinion that we could do it without it, but we would certainly, it might be, like a washing machine versus washing the dishes by hand. It might be something that they move towards in a year or two. But
How does it work? I mean,
so
where do you store it in the meantime? Or
it's always in an enclosed structure anyway. So it'd be inside the composting area, and you load one end and the clean manure, the composted organics come out the other side. But it adds a little bit of moisture. It gets the temperature right. It mixes it, oxygenates it, and basically is just like a cement mixer. It slowly moves through as it's processed, and the nice fertilizer comes out the other end. They have online some information on that.
Well, is it something that we should explore here? Because you heard the concerns of the public, even though we're doing everything possible to drain this property correctly. I don't know if the audience heard this about this berm around the whole perimeter. I mean, we're addressing the runoff.
Yeah, and although it's 25 feet higher, it's pitched away from Mill Creek and Mill Pond.
Would this help the manure runoff is my question.
It's just it's a labor saving device. I think the quality, if it's a well-managed composting area, it would be equivalent. I don't know, Leo, did you have any thoughts?
I think what we're doing now is we're confusing two things: the manure that's been dropped daily by the animals out on the pasture and the effects of that some of the people may have concerned about, and then the actual manure storage, if you will, or compost area. So it's two entirely different things. I personally have not had good experience with these mechanical devices. But again, as was set up here on the board, agriculture is becoming an historic thing, and I'm a historic person. My wife doesn't have a dishwasher, doesn't like them, never liked them. She always washed her dishes by hand, as Dan said. And this is a similar kind of thing. It's new, it's a piece of machinery, though. It is a piece of machinery, it's mechanical, it works. I personally will tell you that I am not impressed with them. Robert Our company and myself got together about 15 years ago and designed a similar kind of situation. It was more problematic. I even suggested to the applicant that if the manure becomes a problem, the manure storage or composting area becomes a problem, just remove it. It's not, we're not talking thousands of tons here. You come in with a little loader and you dump it into a dump trailer and off the site it goes. And then it's not Yarmouth's problem. Town of Harwich would love to take it for $10 a ton because they use it in their thing. I would rather see that as a backup than a mechanical aspect thing.
Yeah.
So with the manure, I have chickens. I had to go to the Board of Health to get approval for my chickens. And they came back to make sure that I kept a clean coop. Does the Board of Health come back and check on means and methods and
Count the animals, absolutely.
Most,
involving the waste removal at all? Like
all the towns that have Board of Health so here on the Cape, all of them that have health agents, they have bond inspections on an annual basis. It's either done through someone at the Board of Health or the animal inspector or the dog officer, if you will, who has knowledge from the Board of Health about the
they
manure
check on
management.
food storage and waste.
Absolutely. Rats,
It's
infestation.
important for the public to know.
Yes.
I know that's out of our purview.
It's all covered when they're, usually it's done like the hotel inspections.
So
It's
that-
usually done a certain time of year.
Question, this is just to just clean the manure or it
This
doesn't-
composts it quicker.
It's just composted
It
quick.
composts it quicker and then it
Condenses it quicker.
becomes a soil, if you will. And again, I think one of the reasons why I've not had much luck with them is because once it becomes soil, and if this machine is doing what it does and it's moving it from manure, a nitrogen-rich product, to soil, and even if it doesn't in 2 weeks, most farms end up having to get rid of the soil anyhow because they don't have a place to use it
Yeah, I would
and they
tend to
don't have
agree.
enough area to cover it. So it's kind of not been a
Yeah, they haven't, I
that's a
agree.
personal.
They have in their application that they would be removing any compost that doesn't fit or becomes too much. And I think that is a better solution than this. Sometimes they just dehydrate and it's not really compost at the end and you're not really sure. So I would agree.
You don't know what happens in there. It's like a trash
And they're gonna
compactor.
move it.
So we have September 4th or 18th for more information, as we talked about. What would you prefer?
Well, again, pleasure of the board, would be very comfortable with closing the hearing subject to receipt of a plan showing, as discussed, the buffer between the two flags. I don't know how much more we can add. Again,
We did discuss a significant number of items and some you provided. I would prefer, it's up to the commission.
David, yeah, I don't,
Personally, because I just think there are too many questions. People brought up some good points. I'm not an expert or even close to being a scientist, so I'll need time to figure out how to look at what some of these points were. I did want to ask, I think it's Joshua Stain. Did you put your stuff in writing?
Yes, he read it.
You have it?
Yeah.
Didn't look at names when I read everything, so I'll read yours again and and I did read the one we received the other day from I don't remember the name.
Yeah,
Anyway, the Wilson letter, and I just need to spend time, and I have lots of other things to do in life too, because Paul said we're all
Yeah.
volunteers.
Public comment has closed.
I might Yes, I submitted that in my letter, and that letter, as well as my prior letter of August 1, indicate even more violation.
So if we're getting a new plan, would it be possible to see where the irrigation is located in the 35-foot buffer? Just that section.
Yeah, we can, there's a separate irrigation plan that was put in, but it's fuzzy, so I can overlay that.
Yeah, is
Wouldn't be
it
a problem.
possible to combine?
Yeah, we could combine that, no problem. I am away on the 13th for 2 weeks, so that's my life.
But I,
The 4th? Or September 4th is our next one. That would only give you 1 week for revisions.
I think we'd like to try for that. We can get the revisions in within a week easily and,
Okay.
you know, if possible.
Comments, public comments and concern.
What date? Or
September 4th.
September 4th.
Give me a minute. Yes, Paul.
yeah, I just, you know, as I think I said, I'm always concerned with upholding the regulations and the, of both the town regulations and the Wetland Protection Act. And I look to Brittany for the most part regarding whether or not whatever is being presented is violating either one of those things. Now, certain comments have been made tonight where very specifically it's been at least alleged that there are violations that exist in this whole proposal. I would like to, and I think you're going to do this, go through each one of them item by item, so I understand if in fact they are truly violations or they're just somebody who's, you know, desperate to stop this particular thing. And I kind of don't think that's the case. There might be some rhyme or reason to some of the comments, but I really would like to review that so that when I finally vote, I know that we are within our, upholding our responsibilities having to do with the Wetland Protection Act and the town regulations.
We're difficult subject. This is something that possibly few here have seen. A Guide to Agriculture and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act. This is a manual put out by the state. And it is a little bit old, but it does go through how the state is encouraging the farming. But it also, so each town can make its own bylaws under the state Right to Farm Act. What I would like to address at this point is best management practices, and I think very few people understand how these are derived. For the Conservation Service, I'm sorry, for the Natural Resources Conservation Service, they essentially have the national standards, which, as Ellie pointed out, it was a good table. But that table doesn't really identify the specific standards that are being addressed. And I sort of quickly went over the point that I'd like to see more detail in the farm plan, when I should be more explicit about the person's questions on the legal problems and all the things that Paul wants to go through, which will be important for the future, because really I'm talking about the local best management practices. The soil, the water resource, they essentially say the national are taken by the states and derive their own general laws for the state, their own best management practices. And then the conservation districts take those with the help of the NRCS, they work out what are the local best management practices that take into consideration the soils, the water, and all the other differences that each district has. As you know, we're very different than just a few miles inland in the Massachusetts. So they have to be specific to the district conservation, best management practices. And I think that as you understand that process, when I talk about wanting to see your farm plan, we got to be detailed. There's going to have to be explicit rotational issues addressed, explicit chemical use issues expressed. And I think that this is key to an ongoing acceptance of what's happening. If you go to goat milk production, if you go to bringing events on the farm, that's going to impact possibly erosion control situation, lots of things. So it may not be in our purview, but it may end up overlapping with some of ours. So I just want to clarify what we're talking about a little bit.
Oh, thank you. I know, and on the contrary, I'm trying to simplify this and what we need to do is protect the adjacent wetlands. And I see that what you should do or could do is, because you're introducing swales, okay, it would be nice if you did a drainage plan, an overlay, if you will, like, because you have to place these swales so they're effective. We need to see that, and we need to see how you've studied it, with arrows, pretty simple, but it's an overlay of drainage. I mean, that seems to be the big issue here. And it's a very simple solution to show how you have addressed it, and then, and show where it's located. But I think I think you might have to do an overlay or a separate plan. I don't know if you.
Be
could do
happy
it
to do that. It's straightforward to do, and there's so much on here that it would, just a simple drainage plan showing where the runoff goes, where it will be rerouted specifically from the composting area is a great idea. Be happy to do it.
That's what you do. Thank you.
One little more. On big projects, we ask the applicants to provide information that they will have to do studies or other kind of ways of collecting what the problem may be, what, water quality, the town putting the wastewater back into Parker's River. Lots of studies are being done. And at some point, if we see that it's a questionable situation, we could request you folks to go back in and do more detailed studies of what the impacts may be. I don't see that happening, but I'm just sort of pointing that out here, how it's a bigger, more complicated picture that you've gotten yourselves into than you might have imagined.
Well, it sounds from the gist of what I'm getting here, we're happy to comply and we want to be good citizens. So I'm happy to do it as long as what we're talking about gets approved. I don't think we have any problems. Thank you.
So I'll just bring this to a closure, before we vote to, send or,
I'm sorry, what did you say?
so I'm gonna bring this, say something. before we vote
To continue.
continue.
Okay.
In my time here, this is the first time we've had a farm come in front of us. You come in front of us with docks and piers and other things. We know what we're doing. We know exactly, but for a lot of us, for me, I'll talk about myself, this is education, and I've spent a long time, been all day today doing things, and met with Brittany for an hour yesterday, and so it's a lot of work, and we're not rubber stamping anything. We're not going to say, yes, you can do this because we want to farm. We want to make sure that the water stays clean, as Paul and Jack both said, and I know the rest of the commissioners feel the same way. So just going to take time, and we'll work it through. Mean they're not going to get the farm? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that we're going to make sure if we do vote for the farm that we can guarantee the best of our ability that the water will stay clean, or if it gets dirty, if it gets polluted, it may not be because of the farm, because as some of you commented earlier, there are times they've closed the shellfish. And I talked to Cassandra about this a couple of weeks ago. She's the shellfish person. There are times she's closed it, and that was before there was a farm or without a farm. So sometimes it gets closed for other reasons, not just because there's a farm in the area. So we don't want it to close because of the farm. We don't have control of other runoffs. I know some of you probably ironically put on lots of stuff on your grass to keep it green and pretty and water your lawns, even though we're in a drought and asking people not to water their lawns. And the irony is some of that stuff gets put into the water. So, you know, I would suggest neighbors talk to neighbors about not putting down pesticides on your lawn. Sometimes it's because of other reasons, septic tanks and things like that. So that's why we're doing a wastewater treatment plant. So I just want you to consider all that. There's a lot of variables of why why water gets closed off. There were 65 beaches in the state of Massachusetts last week and they were closed for various reasons. So we're doing our best. And so I'm going to take a motion to continue to
September 4th.
September 4th. So move, Jack.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I appreciate all your input and hope to continue to have it and that's all we can say. We're gonna move on to the rest of our agenda. Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming and I
Appreciate your time.
Can you put this?
Okay.
Minutes.
That's use.
Hey, John.
I was on my way here.
Of introducing impervious.
Good for the minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's move ahead to minutes from July 17th, which I have to abstain from. Anybody read them and approve them? Okay.
So good?
I'd
Okay.
like
Can I
to-
hear a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes, July 17th and August 7th.
July 17th first, because I can't vote on July 17th.
Okay, July 17th first.
Second? Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I
I abstain.
Okay.
Now you can do August.
would like to make a
7th.
motion that we approve the meetings for August 7th as written.
Second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed, okay. The next one is the significant drought status, returned on August 8th. We talked about this on the side. I know I was with, a couple people last week on our site visits, and I said, I counted 26 homes in my neighborhood who are still watering every day.
Yep.
And we all,
What can we do about it?
what can we do about, that's the problem, you know, they send a letter out and that's as much as they can do. They can't turn the water off, they can't find them. It's sad, so if you're out there listening and you, are watering, please stop. Because we're gonna run into
You
major
can
problems.
see the leaves turning brown on Route 6.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you can hand water. You can hand water your plants and your garden.
Why can't we,
Irrigate.
why can't something more be done than just,
Would that be a regulation or?
It's under the water department, but you can ask them.
we could ask them?
Yeah, I'm gonna call them tomorrow myself. Well, not tomorrow, Monday, tomorrow, busy all day.
I go to work early in the morning and I see
Right.
all the businesses have it going.
And
I
they
mean-
have it done at noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the other thing. I drove by a couple of hotels on 28 and they're watering at noon. I mean, that's just a waste of water because it never.
Just
a hot day
evaporates. Yeah.
doesn't do anything. They want you to water before 9, after 5 by hand only.
Yeah, but this
And I
is
look at
just
my clock, it's
sprinklers going.
10:50, I wait the 10 minutes. I'm serious. I'm thinking, what's 10 minutes? But people are, and as Ellie just said to me, there are a number of people who don't live on the Cape who are gone all summer and their water's always on and they ignore the letter because the letter has no, that is a request, not a.
There's no oomph.
so,
What?
Yes.
Yeah, for the record, I guess, because I don't know who's listening, but you know, in other departments, for example, I think of the building department, when there's a violation, there's building going on without a permit, even our commissioner, there's things going on without a permit. They'll stick to the building, they get a red sticker on the front of the house to say cease and desist. In this particular time, I know that unfortunately, a lot of times the various town departments don't have enough people to do what they, I think, would like to do. But in this kind of situation, they might designate somebody to drive around the town a little, you know, 2-3 times a week with some sort of sticker or some kind of a letter or some kind of a sign that they stick in the yard or whatever, knock on the door and say, listen, it seems you've been watering. I wonder if you might stop, you know, and the same thing, cease and desist. You know, I happened to talk to somebody at the water department. I had some questions about it myself, and I got the same information of sending a letter out, you know. So I wish that somebody in the water department, I see their trucks going around. I don't know how many people work for the water department, but you know, to me, the thing is, if there was a water leak, right, they'd be on top of that. They'd have to be, because it would be a waste of water. Well, this is a similar waste of water and a dangerous waste of water. So why don't they just cruise around town for 2 hours in the morning or something like that, or before they quit for the day, and put up a sticker or a sign or something?
They do know how much water you're using, because when I called up once.
Yeah, I know.
Give them a couple of addresses on the local snitch, and she said, oh, yeah, look, yeah, I can see it's, you know, using much more water.
Oh, they have the water meter.
Yeah, they know.
They know, yeah.
So that's what I was going to mention, is that the meters themselves can be used for that, for tracking. And it would probably take personnel and time and money to make it so they could automate that. Give a list of the people that are using water and when, but I suppose it could be done. Or even if we need better metering, at some point that would cost a bit of money, but you might.
Generally, they can't go on the property and turn the water off. A lot of people's, you know, you can lock your box so they can't unlock it anyway. And so I don't know what the, you know, what the.
Well, I don't think that the water should be shut off. I mean, that might be very dangerous for somebody.
I'm talking about the irrigation.
Oh, the irrigation, yeah, well.
I don't think we should shut off people's water. Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer, but except for the citizens of Yarmouth have to cooperate. I mean, we're blaming sounds like we're blaming the water department, but it's really not their fault. It's the citizens who should be, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Know that water is precious. We have one aquifer on Cape Cod.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Or in a
may I-
drastic drought.
may I
not a
point-
Small drought. right?
Significant,
Yeah,
yeah.
point out because they talked about the aquifer up there on Mill Lane, and they're not connected. That aquifer does not do anything about, you know, it doesn't get its water from down here. It gets its water coming out of the local aquifer, it's not very big area that it draws on. And this is a part of the problem of people understanding, even the professional stuff I see, and just what I see described is inaccurate. The way they talk about the big flow of water coming out of, you know, from the Sandwich and Falmouth, it doesn't go clear down. Well, first of all, the Bass River is in the way for it to go any further, but there's a lot more complications to the water. And I think that's up to us to try to clarify.
You want to say something?
The fall MACC conference was announced in Devon's again, October 25th. They're also doing a fall fundamentals frenzy. If anyone sees anything they want to take, let me know.
Not you personally, but the conservation department pays for.
Yes.
Yes, so if you want to go, or you want to get your certification, which.
When is that?
Pat and I did.
25th.
It's, so all the fundamentals are are online. You'll have to see which ones. You have a credit, I think, Jack, you have to use.
Hey, what?
You have a credit. So you got to get one class at least.
Got to get a couple more.
Yeah.
3, actually.
Yeah.
It was well, I thought it was well worth getting the certification.
If you're a member, you should have gotten an email, but I'll send you.
Keep going.
me get it?
Classes over and over again.
Rude.
Okay, anything else? I want to thank you, all of you, for being so knowledgeable and good about asking good questions, and especially with the controversy of the farm. I appreciate it. Because I don't say it enough. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second right here, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:26